on October the 20th, chess Grandmaster Hans Niemann filed a $100 million lawsuit against World Champion Magnus Carlsen, the top chess website chess.com, and the top chess streamer Hikaru Nakamura, accusing them of colluding to defame him in a cheating scandal that was widely reported on in mainstream news as being perpetuated using vibrating anal beads. Join me as we waddle through all the major plot points of what is sure to go down as one of the biggest scandals in the history of chess and of anal beads. Welcome to Agilov. Our story begins in Miami in August 2022 in the FTX Crypto Cup, a speed chess tournament where both of our main protagonists played in. First, we have Magnus Carlsen, world number 1 for 12 years, world champion for 9 years, highest rating ever achieved in history, basically a GOAT. Next, we have Hans Niemann, a talented 19-year-old American who is one of the top juniors in the world. He has made remarkable progress in the past 2 years, going from the level of someone outside the top 1,000 players in the world to the top 50. Personality-wise, he comes off as a bit brash, but in an almost charismatic kind of way. The pair faced off in round 2 of the tournament, which consisted of a 4-game match. Hans won the first game with the black pieces, a very impressive game where he took the world champion apart. After the game, he gave an interview in typical Hans fashion, where he only said 5 words, but those words would become a meme that would live on in infamy.
Hey, you start out with a masterpiece. How would you summarize it?
Chess speaks for itself.
Is it something special doing this against Magnus, Hans?
He unfortunately went on to lose the other 3 games of the match, and lost all the other matches to end with a disappointing tournament. But the seeds had been sown for a mini rivalry with Magnus. Fast forward 2 weeks, and Magnus is scheduled to play in the Sinkfield Cup, a tournament played with classical or long-time controls between 10 of the best in the world. Unfortunately, one of the participants can't make the tournament due to travel reasons, and a last-minute replacement is required. The replacement chosen is none other than Hans Niemann. Unbeknownst to everybody, this innocent-looking decision would set off a chain of events leading to this relatively unknown player becoming arguably the most famous American chess player since Bobby Fischer. It was clear from the first 2 rounds of the Sinkfield Cup that Hans was in very good form. Against top 10 opposition, he had Levon Aronian on the ropes and dismantled Shakriyar Mamedyarov in a chaotic game. But in round 3, he was up against the world champion. Magnus at this point had not lost at classical chess in 53 games, and specifically when playing with the white pieces, he hadn't lost in 2 years. And so it was quite a surprise when Magnus got dominated by Hans. Hans got a good position out of the opening, and Magnus made some uncharacteristic mistakes, but it looked like he never had a chance to come back. This is how Magnus would later describe the game. He outplayed me as black in a way I think only a handful of players can do. After the game, Hans would give a typically inflammatory interview.
He's just so demoralized because he's losing to such an idiot like me, you know? It must be embarrassing for the world champion to lose to me. I feel bad for him.
In a lot of the media coverage about the scandal, the result of this game was made out to be more than it actually was. The truth is, in a single game of chess, anything can happen. Magnus has lost more important games to younger and weaker players than Hans. So while it was an unexpected result and a very impressive display by Hans, it wasn't exactly earth-shattering. What happened the next day, however, certainly was. It was round 4 of the Sinkfield Cup, and right from the start, it was clear that something was off. There were stricter security checks at the entrance, and a 15-minute delay had been introduced for the broadcast, a measure typically used to prevent cheating. As the players turned up and the game started, there was one notable absentee. The world champion was nowhere to be found. Magnus soon announced in a tweet that he had withdrawn from the tournament. Now this was a shocker. A player withdrawing in the middle of a tournament was simply unheard of, unless there were some family emergency or, well, the world was ending. Creating more intrigue, Magnus linked to the tweet this famous video of football coach Jose Mourinho suggesting foul play.
I prefer really not to speak. If I speak, I am in big trouble.
The internet caught fire with theories, and fanning those flames, for better or worse, was top chess streamer Hikaru Nakamura. Covering all this live on Twitch, Hikaru revealed details about Hans' history and shared his opinion about Magnus' withdrawal.
There was a period of over 6 months where Hans did not play any prize money tournaments on chess.com. I think that Magnus believes that Hans probably is cheating. He probably does believe that in his heart of hearts, that Hans cheated in that game, or that he is cheating or whatever.
Armed with this new information, majority of the internet turned against Hans, and his reputation was butchered. After the 5th round game, Hans sat down for a passionate interview to defend himself. The interviewer, Alejandro Ramirez, would later say, "He told me, I'll do the interview, but I don't want to be interrupted." In a 30-minute rant, Hans admitted that he had cheated online in the past when he was 12 years and 16 years old, but asserted that he had never cheated in over-the-board chess and did not cheat against Magnus. He then revealed another tantalizing piece of information.
I get an email from chess.com saying that they've privately removed access to my chess.com account and that they have uninvited me from the Global Chess Championship.
When chess.com sends you this email, did they give a reasoning?
No reason.
The interview did the trick. Public opinion now swung wildly to his side, with calls for Magnus, Hikaru, and chess.com to explain their actions. Hikaru explained that he had not made any direct accusations. He had only shared factual knowledge about Hans' past and shared an opinion about why Magnus withdrew. Magnus himself, however, had made no public statements at this point and continued silent. Chess.com came out with the most interesting response, suggesting that Hans had basically lied to the public in his now famous interview. This seemed to reverse the previous swing in public opinion a little, and now there seemed to be a 50-50 split between Magnus' supporters and Hans' supporters. The chess world was glued to this scandal for the next few weeks. Hans finished the tournament with 2 losses and 2 more draws to finish in 7th place. Everything Hans did was scrutinized, and I do mean everything. From his previous tournaments and games, every second of his interviews, his body language, and even his accent was taken apart by the public. It was a good old witch hunt. And through a combination of an admittedly weird personality and a lot of confirmation bias, many incriminating pieces of evidence were brought forth that were mostly soon debunked. During this period, a great meme was born. It started as a joke on the stream of the Chessbrah Twitch channel.
So I'm going to play a clip from a few days ago. And the context is someone just asked, what if you hide something in your butt? That's probably a good one, right? An anal bead probably would beat the thing.
Someone later tweeted this joke, and it got a response from none other than now Twitter owner Elon Musk. And just like they do whenever Elon mentions anything, the media went crazy about it. And that is how this story was plastered all over mainstream news as a Grandmaster cheating against the World Champion with vibrating anal beads.
Anal bead while, the chess world has been rocked by rumors of anal beads.
The one theory, which the internet is running wild with, is that he used vibrating anal beads.
2 weeks after the end of the Singfield Cup, Magnus and Hans were both scheduled to play in an online tournament, the Julius Baer Generations Cup. All eyes were understandably on their game, and it didn't disappoint. Magnus played his first move and resigned, sending the chess world into another tailspin.
And what? No.
What happened? What?
No. What happened? Wow. Speechless, yeah?
This time, Magnus did not stay silent, but released an official statement about the scandal in the following week. And although it was heavily lawyered, for the first time, we could listen to Magnus' side of the issue, and it revealed a few new details. The first detail had already been corroborated by both Fabiano Caruana and Jan Nepomniachtchi in their respective podcasts, that Magnus had an issue with playing Hans even before the game he lost in the Singfield Cup. In fact, he almost withdrew from the tournament the second Hans was announced as a last-minute replacement. He says, "I believe Hans has cheated more and more recently than he admitted publicly. Throughout our game in the Sinkfield Cup, I had the impression that he wasn't tense or even fully concentrating on the game in critical positions. I don't want to play against people that have cheated repeatedly in the past." Finally, there was more that he wanted to say but couldn't unless he had explicit permission from Niemann, meaning he couldn't say anything more without getting sued. The next party to add a major plot twist was Chess.com. They had told the public that they were conducting an extensive investigation into the scandal, and on October 4th, they released a 72-page document detailing the results of their investigation. These were the highlights. Hans's online cheating history was found to be very extensive. He was found to have cheated in at least 100 games, with the most recent being when he was 17. They also included their correspondence with Hans after he was caught, and he seems apologetic and accepts that he was indeed cheating. About why they banned Hans again after the game against Magnus? The CGC has 64 participants and a $1 million prize. Under the circumstances, we did not believe we could confidently assure the participants that a player who has confessed to cheating in the past and who has had a meteoric rise coupled with growing suspicions would not potentially undermine the integrity of our event. And finally, about Hans's over-the-board chess. In our view, there is no direct evidence that proves Hans cheated at the September 4th game with Magnus, or proves that he has cheated in any other over-the-board games in the past. Hans next played in the US Championships and tied for 5th. But on the last day of the tournament, he dropped a bombshell. The scandal was going to court. Hans was suing Magnus Carlsen and his company Play Magnus, Hikaru Nakamura, and Chess.com's chief chess officer Danny Rensch for colluding to defame him. The lawsuit, a 44-page document, had some interesting information. For example, that Hans had lost invitations to at least 2 tournaments since the scandal broke out. But there were also some parts though that sounded more like they were written by an angsty teenager than by a professional lawyer. According to experts, it will be an uphill battle for Hans to actually win this lawsuit, but anything still is possible. And this is where we are today. It seems likely things will slow down now that the case is going to court, and so it may be many months or even years until we get any sort of resolution to the scandal, if there ever will be. No matter how it ends, however, it will no doubt go down as one of the biggest cheating scandals in the history of chess and all kinds of beats. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe if you haven't. Thanks for watching.